Okay, in this video, I'm going to be going over the Pythagorean Theorem when A or B is missing. So first we're going to review with naming the side lengths of our right triangles. So please always remember that C has to be the longest side and is always located right across from the 90-degree angle. The other lengths can be A or B. You can mix them apart, and those are the legs of the triangle. So A and B or B and A, but C is always the longest side and always across from that 90-degree angle. Our formula or our theorem is A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and we are going to identify our side lengths in the first two examples that I have here. So first, identify your right angle. Right across from that is going to be your longest side, and that has to be C. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put an A next and a B next to the two legs. Okay, what happens if your triangle is facing in a different direction? So first, you are still going to identify that right angle. Right across from that happens to be C, always the longest side. And then A and B, we can mix and match. So let's say I say 15 is A, and the side that happens to be missing in this case is B. Okay, so we're going to be working through how can we figure out the missing side length when it's A or B. And C is given to us this time. So with that being said, we're going to dive into example 1 and example 2, where B is actually missing. Okay, we still need to use our theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And we're going to start off by, again, identifying our side lengths. So here's your right angle. Always across from your right angle is C. Always along the side, it's called the hypotenuse. And A and B are your legs. So we're going to call this leg A, we'll call this leg B. Okay, I'm going to use my Pythagorean theorem, which is A squared plus B squared equals C squared to begin solving this particular problem. Okay, so A does not have a number by it, so I'm going to leave it as A. Again, A is missing. There is no number on the side length A, so I'm going to leave it as A squared. B squared, however, happens to be 12, so 12 is a square. And then C is given to us this time, and that is 13. So 13 squared. Okay, I'm then going to take out my calculator. I can't do A squared because that's not a number, it's just a variable at this moment. It is unknown, but I can do 12 squared. Also, if you know from your perfect squares, 12 squared is 144. Okay. 13 is also a perfect square, although it's not one that we necessarily needed to memorize, and that number is 169. Okay, so here is the variable that you are trying to get to, and let's start using our inverse operations because we do have an equation to solve. There is an equal sign. Okay, so first let's start with the opposite of adding or subtracting. So I see addition. The opposite of that is going to be subtraction. So let's subtract 144 from both sides. That happens to be 0, and I am left with A squared on that side. So I'm going to bring A squared down, or A to the second power. 169 minus 144 is 25. Okay, I am not finished yet because this value is A squared. I just want one side length. I just want A, not A squared. So I have to take it a step further and take the square root of that number. Okay, so instead my answer is actually 5. A is equal to 5. So my side length that I got for the answer was 5. Your last step has to be taking the square root of 25. Okay, we're going to apply the same concept to number 2, even though that there are decimals. So we know that our formula is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and identify my right angle, and C is always across from that. So I'm going to put in 7.7 squared. I'm going to go ahead and label my side lengths or my legs of my triangle. So A, we'll call this one B. Let's say A is given this time. So 5.A squared. Okay, B is missing. Okay, and I'm going to start doing some math. So 5.8 times 5.8 is 33.64 plus b squared equals 7.7 times 7.7, because that's 7.7 squared. You multiply it by itself, not by 2, but by itself, is 59.29. Okay, we have an equation to solve. So we're going to do the opposite or inverse operations. This is a positive 33.64. So to remove that from this side and get 0, we need to subtract on both sides. Okay, this in fact does give you 0. So you're left with b squared. And let's do 59.29 minus 33.64. Okay, that number is 25.65. We're not done yet because this is still in squared form, so you have to do the opposite or inverse of that, which is taking the square root, and b is equal to square root of 25.65. 5.06, and your assignment today says to round to the nearest tenth. Okay, the 10th place is right after the decimal point, and you always look at the 100ths number, or the number in the 100ths place, to figure out how to round. 5 or above, give it a shove. 4 or less, let it rest. 6 is above 5, so the number is going to round to 5.1. You're going to give 0 a shove. So 5.1 is your answer, rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, let's look at some other ones where you are expected to round as well. So you have example 3 and also example 4, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we're going to go ahead and identify c first. So there's your right angle. Right across from it would be your longest side, which is always c. So c squared. Okay, we're going to go ahead and label our legs. So we're going to call this one A, we'll call this one B. So 2.6 squared plus b squared. I'm going to do 2.6 times 2.6. 6.76 plus b squared equals 9.7 times 9.7 is 94.09. Okay, now that I've squared my numbers that I can, I have an equation to solve. This is a positive 6.76, so the opposite of that would be negative or subtraction. I'm trying to get 0. When I subtract a positive from a positive number, I'm going to end up getting 0, so we are left with b squared. Okay, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. And I get 87.33. I am not done yet because this is b squared and not just b by itself. So you have to take the square root of that to get just b. The square root of 87.33 is 9.345. We also have to round in this case as well to the nearest 10th place. The 10th place is right here after the decimal point. We're going to look at the number 4. 5 or above, give it a shove. 4 or less, let it rest. This is 4 or less, so we are going to let the 3 rest. So 9.3 is my rounded answer. Okay, example 4, same concept. First step is identifying where C is, and the value for C, that happens to be 11.9. We're squaring it. Then we got to find A and B. Let's call this side A and this side B. Again, A and B can be intermixed. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Well, we can't square A because it's a variable. So A squared, I'm going to write that down again. 5.1 times 5.1 is 26.01. Then we need 11.9 times 11.9. Again, squaring something is you are multiplying that number by itself. So what I mean by that is 11.9 times 11.9. Make sure you're squaring it or multiplying it by itself. That number is 141.61. Okay, from here, we got to start solving our equation now that I have squared the numbers that I can. I am still left with a squared because that's a variable and does not have a value to it yet. Oops. And the opposite, I jumped a step. The opposite of a positive 26, that needs to be subtraction, 26.01 from both sides. So you are left with a squared, and 141.61 minus 26.01 is 115.6. Now we are not done yet because this answer is in the form of a squared, and we want our final answer to just be a. So I have to take the square root of that number. So the square root of 115.6. And you can use a calculator. You can use Google for that. But my answer comes out to be 10.751. We are rounding to the nearest 10th place. So we're looking for the number right here after the decimal point to be rounded to. And this guy is going to help us out. 5 or more, raise the score. 5 or above, give it a shove. 4 or less, let it rest. So 5 is 5 or above, so it's going to give the 7 a shove. And my rounded answer is 10.8. Okay, so I hope this video has helped you. A couple things to remember. Always is your formula a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Always remember that the longest side is always across from your 90-degree angle, and that side has to be c. No matter what way your triangle is facing, find the 90-degree angle, and c is right across from that. Again, find your 90-degree angle. C is right across from that. Another thing to remember is rounding to the nearest 10th place. So let's say that I had 12.596. Okay, the 10th place was right here after the decimal point. You're going to look at this number to tell you what you want it to do. So 5 or more, raise the score. Okay, 9 is 5 or more, so this is going to raise the score to become 12.6. Okay, another example of rounding to the nearest 10th, let's say it's 13.63. The 10th place is right here after the decimal point. You look to the number right behind it, and the other part of the saying is, more raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest. Okay, 3 is 4 or less, so you are letting the 6 rest. So the rounded version would be 13.6. Hope this video has helped you in using the Pythagorean theorem when A or B is missing. Good luck on your assignment.